Hey there, do you have pain doing simple tasks that require you to forward bend, like brushing your teeth, washing the dishes, or even making your bed in the morning? If you do, then you absolutely want to watch this video. I'm going to show you how to do these activities with less pain and stress to your lower back. So stay tuned. One of the most important things that you should know as a back pain sufferer is how to bend and lift safely. Now, this is an activity we absolutely just can't get around. We have to do things like brush our teeth in the morning, we have to wash dishes, make the bed and so forth, and these are all activities that require us to forward bend just a small amount. And these are activities that, when sustained for any even short periods of time, can cause a lot of discomfort. So we want to know how to get around this. Now, the problem is that most of these activities are carried out using a rounded back posture. Now, let me explain what that is. Now, we can actually bend forward from the lumbar spine, which is what most people do. So if we only have to bend forward just a little bit, that axis ends up being the lumbar spine when we're brushing our teeth or we're doing the dishes. And you can see when you look at my lower back where the movement is coming from. It's coming from the spine. I'm hunching forward in order to do that activity. Now, part of the problem is when we hunch forward into this position, we're elongating the muscles of the back, and if they're already tired, agitated, and have trigger points in them, they're just going to get more fatigued, and this may lead to spasm. Now, the other thing is that if we forward flex enough, approximately 45 degrees or so, the muscles actually shut off at a certain point, and what we're doing is we're hanging by the ligaments and the connective tissues. Now, at first, we can do that for a small period of time, but if we do it for longer periods of time, then we can agitate that tissue and we can lead to inflammation, and this can last for days. And the easiest simile I can give you is that if you take your index finger, and you slightly bend it back, that actually feels kind of good. But if I leave it here for a minute, 2 minutes, or even longer, this tissue is going to start to get really agitated. So if I pull it back into a nice stretch and then I let it go, it recovers pretty quick. But the longer I hold that sustained position, the more I stress that tissue, then when I let my finger go, it doesn't feel better right away. Sometimes that feeling of strain persists. So you have to use this to think about what's going on with the back when we hunch forward for long periods of time off of the ligaments, rather than using our own muscles to hold ourselves upright. So we run into two problems here. Slouching makes you feel better because you're not having to use the muscles, but the problem is that sitting upright is also really fatiguing on the back. So while we do our corrective exercise, stretching, self-mobilization program and so forth, we need to learn how to effectively bend forward while reducing the strain on the spine, and of course we want to avoid these sustained bent forward positions for long periods of time as well. Okay? So the easiest way to learn how to do this is with a stick. Now, this is a huge dowel rod, obviously going outside of the width of the camera. It doesn't matter. You can use any kind of stick. You can use a mop handle if you want to. It all works. The whole point is learning how to hold your spine in the right position. Now, rather than what we talked about in the beginning, which is flexing forward from the spine, what we want to learn how to do is to tip forward from the hips. Now, this is distinctly different because what we're doing is holding the lumbar curve into a neutral position when we tip forward rather than going into flexion. But also, the goal is not to have a hard extension in the lower back when we tip forward. If we flex forward from the lumbar spine, we can get stress again on those connective and ligamentous tissues in the spine, but we can also put increased pressure on the discs, which is a problem if you have a disc bulge. But if we have too much hard arch in the lower back or a lordosis, then the problem is we start to put strain on the facet joints in the spine, and that can also cause problems if you have that type of an issue. So when in doubt, always go to the neutral position. And the neutral is neither full extension nor full flexion. It's in the middle of those two. Now, wherever you put yourself, that's where you're going to stay. So if I go into a posterior pelvic tilt, I roll my pelvis underneath me, and then I go all the way back, and I'm going to find that space in the middle. That's where I'm going to bend forward from. So when we learn to bend forward, we want to keep that neutral position and then put our axis of rotation, that forward tipping, instead of being in the spine, we want to put it into the hips. So what we use the stick for is just posture. So if I place this stick behind my back, one point of contact is my sacrum down there. The next point is my mid-back, and then point number 3 is going to be my head and neck. Now look at that. So now we have a good postural alignment. I have a neutral pelvic tilt, And now from this point, I'm going to soften my knees a little bit. I know you can't see that, but just trust me, they're a little bit bent. And what I'm going to do is maintain all 3 points of contact as I bend forward. Now look at that. If you look at the position of the lower back, you see that I'm not losing the arch in my back, but I'm also not going into an excessive extension. I'm staying into the neutral position. Now when I forward bend like this, the load is being shifted down into my rear end, my glute muscles, and my hamstrings. I am getting some contraction of my lower back, but it's in a neutral position rather than being extended or flexed. So from here, I can bend forward and I sit my weight back onto my heels a little bit. And now from here, I can brush my teeth, I can do the dishes or whatever I need to. Now, if this position is too stressful, I could always upright myself a little bit by softening the knees even further. But you see how that doesn't change anything with the position of the spinal cord, the spinal column. Okay, so we can bend forward quite a bit, or we can stay upright just like this. Then we do our task. Now to come out of this position, we just push the hips forward and the knees back. So that's how we maintain a neutral position of the spine. We tip forward from the hips, and we can reduce stress in those cases where you may be suffering from back pain. This is really, really essential, and I urge you to make this a habit. Do it all the time in any positions where you have to forward bend. It's really a lifesaver for back pain sufferers, and I hope it serves you well. Sam Visnic here, neuromuscular therapist from EndYourBackPainNow.com. Thanks for watching.